I've been thinking a lot about unique monsters and how they should fit into our sandbox games. I think having these legendary creatures that roam our fantasy worlds are what make the fantasy genre so compelling to me as both a game master and also a player. Why are they legendary? What makes them unique? And how does their story fit within the greater world around them? And of course, can they be beaten? And that led me to thinking about what if the monster wasn't just a combat encounter, but a source of legendary treasure or materials, a key to some sort of quest, or even a secret to revealing the world's mysteries. Hi, welcome back aboard the Earthmote. I'm Randall. Today we're diving into the power of unique monsters and the unique opportunities they create within our games. The idea for this video came to me when I was reading one of Lord Dunsany's short stories. The story is called The Fortress Unvanquishable Save for Sacknoth, which is quite the mouthful. The story is about a troubled village. The evil wizard Gaznak has returned and uses his dream magic to feed on the minds of men. The village magician tells the people that there is only one way to defeat the wizard Gaznak. He can only be vanquished by the sword Sacknoth. The protagonist of the story learns from the magician that the sword Sacknoth can only be made by defeating the monster Tharagavarug, which is also a mouthful. And I quote from the story, "He is the dragon crocodile who haunts the northern marshes and ravages the homesteads by their marge. And the hide of his back is of steel, and his underparts are of iron. But along the midst of his back, over his spine, there lies a narrow strip of unearthly steel. This strip of steel is Sacknoth, and may neither be cleft nor molted, and there is nothing in the world that may avail to break it, nor even leave a scratch upon its surface. It is the length of a good sword, and the breadth thereof. Shouldst thou prevail against Tharagavarug, his hide may be melted away from Sacknoth in a furnace. But there is only one thing that may sharpen Sacknoth's edge, and that is one of Tharagavarug's own steel eyes. And the other eye thou must fasten to Sacknoth's hilt, and it will watch for thee. But it is a hard task to vanquish Tharagavarug, for no sword can pierce his hide, his back cannot be broken, and he can neither burn nor drown. In one way only can Tharagavarug die, and that is by starving." That passage from that short story got my mind blazing with ideas about unique monsters. So let's take a look at the key elements of our unique monster, Tharagavarug, real quick. He's hard to kill. Indestructible hide, can't be drowned or burned, only killable by starving him. Right off the bat, we have an outside-the-box challenge for defeating a monster. They have to go up and find the monster in these northern marshes, wherever that is and wherever he is within them. Then they have to find a way to starve him. Once he's been starved to death, they need to harvest the vital parts to forge the sword of Sacknoth. If they're able to do all of that, then they can wield the weapon that lets them defeat their other enemy, the wizard Gaznak. That's very cool stuff, and if we were to generalize it for making our own unique monsters, we'd have the following. Incorporate elements beyond the stat block. What unique abilities does it have? What vulnerabilities or invulnerabilities does your monster have? How does the monster connect to the greater world? How can the monster drive quests, offer unique rewards, or reveal interesting secrets about your campaign? Put an emphasis on resourcefulness. These are unique monsters, legendary. A straightforward fight against one should be incredibly difficult. A good unique monster challenges the party to think creatively how they can defeat it. And lastly, for these legendary monsters, it's important to make rumors and stories about the monster known within your campaign world. The party can't think creatively if you don't tell them ahead of time that your super troll is immune to acid and fire. Part of the fun in the build-up is that these monsters are different. The party needs to think differently and figure out new ways on how to defeat them, but they can only do that if you're offering that information forthwith. Let's go ahead and take a look at some other examples from mythology, fiction, and games that capture the idea of these mythic monsters. In Greek mythology, we see the tale of Heracles and the Nemean lion. The lion has this invulnerable hide, so Heracles has to use his knowledge and reasoning, and he comes up with a way to defeat it by strangling. Ultimately, the hide becomes his armor, so he kind of gains this material that he uses to make his person stronger. I think a lot of Heracles' 12 labors are sort of these puzzle-like challenges to overcome monsters, and really most of Greek mythology monsters are very similar too. So you could look to a lot of those to get some good ideas on what these might present in terms of outside the box challenges if you want to include them in your games. In Norse mythology, looking at the story of Fafnir, we see that the blood of the dragon Fafnir grants Sigurd the ability to understand birds. And it's from there he kind of learns some knowledge that helps kind of advance his story. Again, kind of these unique monsters offering sort of unique powers or abilities to characters. In the book The Hobbit, Smaug is only killable by striking him where he has sort of this damaged scale. And armed with that knowledge, Bard the Bowman is able to slay him with a black arrow. In the video game Shadow of the Colossus, the player must face off against several giant puzzle monsters. They're difficult, if not impossible, to defeat unless the player is able to find and exploit their weakness. And they do so by using the terrain to their advantage and using their different skills and abilities that they have. I'm going to now take a look at examples within 2 RPG sandbox settings to give us some more ideas. I'll be taking a look at Dolmenwood and the Gods of the Forbidden North sandboxes. If you're a player in either of those campaigns, or if you don't want to be spoiled about the information in them, I'm going to put timestamps up now so you can go ahead and skip to that if you don't want to see any spoilers. In Dolmenwood, the characters are likely to learn about a monster known as Big Chook. Big Chook is a terrifying lake monster that keeps most people off the waters of Lake Longmere. His terrifying wailings, his song, is said to drive anyone who hears it mad. As a game master, you learn that Big Chook is the alter ego, or kind of this nightmare amalgamation of an ancient god that's been put to magical slumber by another chaotic outer godling. Big Chook and the wood god he's connected to have a deep tie to the setting. And if the players are able to face and defeat Big Chook, they might be able to learn some of those secrets that could dramatically alter the course and the shape of Dolmenwood. Of course, he lairs underwater, which is quite the challenge for the players, and they have to figure out a way to overcome his terrifying song that could destroy them quite quickly. So he's quite the challenge, but he's this interesting monster that's been tied really well into kind of the lore and the details of the setting. In the Gods of the Forbidden North setting, we see that there are these legendary greater demons that roam the sandbox world. The players are able to defeat them. They're able to get these pieces of the lost keys of chaos and death. These demons have some strong resistances, but ultimately they are defeatable via normal combat, which is a totally okay thing to do. We can see that the demons themselves are strongly tied to the setting, and you don't really need to employ every element for every legendary creature in your world. So some can be faced with swords and magic without any sort of special abilities or ways to beat their invulnerabilities if you don't want. So you can kind of mix and match the different elements that your players are going to face as threats within the sandbox. So in a lot of these examples, we see how the unique monster is kind of a puzzle. The players need to learn and understand their opponent. This is a great way to offer hooks and encourage exploration in your world. Maybe the players need to find out how they could defeat the monster. In some cases, the monster is a unique opportunity for the party to exploit. Defeating it grants them maybe further knowledge or maybe materials for some other element of adventuring in your game, whether that's magic items or keys to unlock other areas of the world. All those are great things to incorporate into your unique monsters. Okay, so now that we understand some examples, what are some ways to integrate the unique and legendary monsters into our sandbox? The first ideas are around world building. I'd give some real thought to how your legendary monsters are going to affect the world building of your campaign. Incorporate unique monsters into your world's history and ecology. Give them a purpose. Are they guardians? Are they an ancient threat, some sort of natural phenomenon? how do they fit into the greater world? And then lastly, create rumors and legends surrounding them. So why are they there? What do people think they're doing? Are there stories of past heroes facing this legendary monster? From there, the monster can be a great source of rumors and hooks. There's lots of opportunities for quests and challenges to the player. Some of the hooks are directly related to defeating the monster. Maybe they can set off an adventure for ways to figure out how to find the monster's weakness or exploit the monster's weakness. Or there can be quests and hooks focused on dealing with the monster or people wanting something from the monster. Maybe a wizard's looking for a specific monster part for a powerful spell, or maybe a rival faction is hunting the same creature the players are looking at. These are different ways to kind of incorporate both the past and the present as hooks in your campaign. The unique monster offers a great chance for rare materials. There are a couple of ways to integrate this into your thought and your design for these monsters. The monster parts, of course, can be crafting materials for unique items, magic items, weapons, armor, spells, staves, you get it. Monster blood or venom or other components can be used in potions and poisons, things like that, that might be very deadly or maybe are useful for defeating another monster, like we saw the Sword of Saknoth. Or you can have the monster's lair also be a source of these rare resources or hidden treasures. Maybe certain special alchemical ingredients only grow in this legendary monster's lair. In this case, the players might not have to defeat the monster, but rather just sneak into its lair, collect the materials, and get out. That could be a fun and memorable adventure as well. Lastly, you're going to want to be thinking about the sandbox impact of the monster. Even when the monster is defeated, you should be thinking about the consequence. Unique monsters create memorable encounters and stories, especially if they're defeated. That should build up the party's reputation in the sandbox. I did a video on reputation. You can check it out up here. And then power vacuums. Does the defeat of this unique monster create some sort of void? An opportunity for another monster or faction in your sandbox to seize? Consequences, consequences, consequences. Think about them and what this means for your sandbox as the players change it. So one final quick summary for creating your own unique monsters. You're going to want to start with a concept. What role does the monster play in your campaign setting? Give them unique traits. Do they have special abilities, weaknesses, or invulnerabilities? And of course, any lore associated with that. Connect them to your world. How do they interact with other creatures and locations in your campaign setting? And what does that change with the world around them? And then lastly, consider the rewards. What unique resources or opportunities do these monsters offer, whether they're defeated or interacting with in social encounters or interacting with other monsters or people around the monster? I think you should definitely be incorporating these unique and legendary monsters that present interesting and difficult challenges to your party. I find that they really encourage player agency and exploration within your setting, and they really add that sort of depth and richness to your campaign world and are a good source of stories if your players are able to overcome and defeat them. Share down below any of your own unique monster ideas in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. It does help out a lot. Consider checking out Enchanted Nimbus, my monthly newsletter. Thanks for hopping aboard the Earthmote. I'll see you in the next one.